Hey guys, this is Mitch with FinePoint CGI, and today we're going to talk about how to integrate Google Play game services into Godot. So we're going to go through the process of setting up our project. We're going to go through the process of setting up our Godot project, and then we're going to kind of dive into the code and do a deep dive of what each option is and each callback is and how they all work. And then we're going to round it off with having all of the functions in our scene where we can hit all of the buttons and have it do all of the things. So that's what I have in store for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey guys, before we jump into this tutorial, I just wanted to let you guys know that I've uploaded all the source code to GitHub, and I have a link to it in the description. By the time I was done editing this video, it ended up being like an hour and I think like 30 minutes or so, or 40 minutes or something. And I don't really want to waste that much of your guys' time. Now, I'm not going to cut the video any for those of you who want to run through the entirety of the video, but for those of you who just want an answer of how to integrate this, I have a separate section in my description that you can use to integrate all of this stuff. You can just download my code and then go ahead and basically just follow those timestamps and follow those sections, and then you'll be able to hook all of this up. So if you guys want to go that route, that's totally fine. Anyway, let's jump into building this. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually create our app for our project to be associated with. When the Google game service goes out, it needs something to communicate with. So it's good to just start with this and then move into the coding section afterwards, because it makes it a little easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to click Create App. And for our app name, we're going to go ahead and call it Google Play Services Tutorial, and then we're going to go ahead and make this a game. If you make it an app, Google Play game services won't work. So now if we come down here, we're going to go ahead and say we're free, and we will say, yep, I confirm, and we will click Create App. And now what we got to do is we have to go down and set up our Play game services. It's right here on the bottom left. If we go ahead and click on that and click on our little arrow here, we have to go to configuration. Okay. And once we go to configuration, from here, we can go ahead and determine if our game uses a Google API. In my case, it doesn't. In your case, it might. So if you have like Firebase or something, if you followed my Firebase tutorial, you might already have it. And these steps do differ a little bit for that case. Now, if you go ahead and click on no, you will be able to choose a game name, which in my case, Google Play Services Tutorial. That's fine. And we will go ahead and it says we can't use the word Google. So we'll go ahead and just say Play Services. And we will go ahead and create it. All right. So now that we have that, we need to go ahead and create our OAuth consent screens. So we'll go ahead and click on that. It's right here. So we'll click here. And then we got to click on our Google Cloud Platform link right here. So go ahead and click on that. And you will see that it's going to come up with how do you want to register your app? In our case, we want external because we are using it externally. We are not, it's not an internal enterprise application, right? It's an external application that other people are going to use. So we're going to click external and then create. For app name, this name needs to be the same as your app. So in my case, I'm just going to make it the same as our project here. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to paste it right here. And this is the name of your app. Okay. So you can just do whatever you want it to be called. Support email. I'm going to make it my email. And for domain and all of that, you don't need any of this. You don't even need an app logo, but you can go ahead and browse that up if you'd like. And then developer contact information, you need to go ahead and put your email. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email, finepointcgi@gmail. And then we'll go ahead and hit save and continue. And now it's going to ask you for scopes. And what scopes are, and we're not going to really use them here, but what scopes are is it allows you to scope people's information. So for instance, you could have like non-sensitive scope, which just is like your regular people. Sensitive scopes are for like, you know, if you don't want people to know very much about the person. And then restricted means nobody knows anything about this information. Okay. And that's for all of the private user data that apps have access to. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, in my case, we don't need any of this, so we'll just click save and continue. For test users, we need to go ahead and add in our test user. Now, it's going to be whatever your Google account is. So in my case, I'm going to add in my Google account, and I'll click add, and that will go ahead and add it right here. Now, I've blurred this out so you guys can't see it, but there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and save and continue. And then we're going to scroll down, and you'll see that it's got all of our information right here. And we're going to scroll down and then go ahead and click back to dashboard. And you should see that everything should be good at this point. Yep, everything seems to be good. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our configuration, and we will go ahead and create OAuth. We'll say, yep, we've done that. For credentials, we need to go ahead and click on that next. So we'll click on that. And you'll see if we scroll down, there's a section here for Android and game server. Now we need both of these for our stuff to work properly. So we'll go ahead and add credential, and we're going to use our play services tutorial. We're going to say it's an Android. I don't really care about anti-piracy, but if you guys want to turn that on, you guys can. And we'll come down here and you'll see here that we have our authorizations. So this is kind of like all the people's credentials and how they authorize to use your Place game service. So I'm going to go ahead and create an OAuth client because we don't have any available. You can see right here. So we're going to go ahead and click create OAuth client, and we will click this right here to create an OAuth client. Now you will see that it's going to go ahead and allow us to run through here. So application type, we're going to say Android app. We'll call it Android client. Our package name needs to be whatever our package name is, and it needs to be the same. So org.finepointcgi. And in my case, I'm just going to use play services tutorial. And this is important. This is the name of your application. So if we were to go into Godot here, and I'll just make our project. So we'll just call it Play Services Tutorial, and I'll just open this up real quick. Project export add Android, and if you look, there's a section right here, package, unique name. This and this needs to be the same or else it will not work. So I'm going to make it this, so that way I have it, and I'm going to copy it to make sure that I have it. And actually, while I'm at it, I'll just go ahead and paste it into my project here. So that way it's the same, that way it's correct. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get my SHA-1 certificate fingerprint. Now, to get this, you need to have your Keystore built, and you need to get it from there. So what you can do, in my case, I already have one, but I'll go ahead and create a new one for you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about. What you can do is you can go ahead and I'll open up my Play Services tutorial box here. I'm just going to go ahead and open in File Manager, so that way it's just in my folder. And I'm going to go CMD, and we're going to go ahead and create ourselves a debug Keystore. Now, I've shown this a few times, but basically you just type keytool-gen key-v-keystore debug keystore-store pass Android alias is Android debug key key pass Android key elg is RSA key size is 2048 and validity is 1000 or 10,000. And that'll go ahead and generate ourselves a debug keystore. And you can just hit enter for all of these. And then Y for it's good. And you'll see that it's generated ourselves out a debug keystore. So now we can go ahead and get our fingerprint here, our certificate fingerprint, just by calling out to your key tool. And we'll say dash keystore is our debug keystore. And then we're going to say dash list dash V. And then it's going to ask us for our password. And we just set our password up above. So we'll type Android. And that will be our special certificate fingerprint right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this by selecting it in Control C. And then I will paste it in here. And there we go. So we want to make sure that this matches up. So if we pull this up, it seems to match up pretty well. Good. So we're going to go ahead and click create. And then we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And then we're going to go ahead and create another one. Okay. So we'll go back to our project. We'll hit done. We'll select our OAuth client and we'll select our Android client here. Now we can go ahead and save our changes. And we'll need to do the same thing for our game server one. So if we go back to configuration and then we scroll down under game server, we don't have any game server credentials. So let's go ahead and add in a credential. Let's add in a game server. It's going to be called Play Services Tutorial. And we, once again, don't have any OAuth clients. So let's go ahead and create one. So we'll click Create. We'll click Create OAuth Client ID. And then we can go ahead and go to our application type. In our case, it's going to be a web application this time. We're going to call it Web Client because I don't really feel like renaming it. And then we'll go ahead and hit Create. What that's going to do is that's going to create our web client. Now, this is where things get important. You have a client ID here. So you're going to want to copy that. And let's just open up a notepad and paste it in there. We're going to need this for later. So go ahead and click OK. And go back to our configurations credentials. Go ahead and click Done. And then select your web client as your client. And then let's go ahead and save our changes. Awesome. So that pretty much does a large sum of the configuration that we needed. So now we need to go ahead and publish our project. So we're going to click Review and Publish. And then we're going to come down here and it's going to say, hey, we need you to do some stuff. So we need a description for our game. So let's click on the little arrow here. And I'll just add, this is a tutorial project. And then we'll go ahead and select our game category as action. And they want us to upload a game icon and a feature graphic. Now I already have these built, so it's up in my downloads folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab those, but I have them in a link in the description below if you need them, or you can just create empty files, in which case that's what I did here. So we'll go ahead and do that and then come down here and go ahead and click save. Now you can add Firebase if you'd like, but in my case, I don't need to. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And that should do it. So we'll go back to our configuration. And you should see that if we click publish our project, it should say ready to publish. So we'll go ahead and publish it. And we are going to go ahead and we'll click publish. What that's going to do is that's going to publish it. So now we can actually access this and log in and things like that. Perfect. So now that we've gotten to this point, we can go ahead and download our add-on and start hooking up some of our stuff like logging in and logging out and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump over to that. Okay, so we're going to need to pull down the add-on for our Godot project. So I'm going to be pulling down the PGSGP add-on, which has been worked on by a bunch of people in the community. But in this specific case, I'm going to be pulling down the Mauville Technologies branch of it. And the reason why is because this is the most up-to-date one that I could find. And it seems like it's the one that works the best as of right now. So we're going to come down here to our releases, and we're going to go ahead and pull down these two files. So we're going to click on them and then go ahead and pull them down. Now, I already have pulled down the GDAP file and the release AAR. We need both of them. The GDAP file points to the AAR to tell Godot how to use the AAR file. So if we go out to our downloads folder here, you'll see that I have the two files right here. So we're going to go ahead and copy that, and we're going to go ahead and go into Godot right here, and we are going to go ahead and set up our Godot project. So we're going to go to Project, Install Android Build Template, and we're going to go ahead and install that. And then we're going to go to our Resources folder right here. We're going to right-click, Open in File Manager, and then we're going to go ahead and go to our Android plugins, and we're going to paste in our plugins. All right, now that we've pasted in our plugins, we need to go ahead and enable our add-ons. So we can go to our project, export, and go to our Android preset here, and go ahead and turn on the Google Play Games service. And we're going to go ahead and turn on custom building. Now that we have this custom build, which will allow us to build out our project, let's go ahead and click close. And now let's go to our Android. Let's right click on it, open in File Manager, and then let's go to our build section. Now we're going to need to be messing around with some of these files here. So let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code in that folder location. So I'm going to do that by typing CMD, and then I'm going to type code dot. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up Visual Studio in our location that our command prompt is in. So you can see that we have all of our stuff right here. So we're going to need to make some small changes to our configuration settings. The first one that we need to make is in our Android manifest. And if we scroll down to where it says metadata right here, we need to copy and paste some data into it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this in my description for you guys, but basically we just need to copy some metadata here into this directory. There we go. We'll go ahead and save that. And then we need to go ahead and go out to our RES folder, and we need to come down to values. We need to right click it, make a new file called strings.xml. And then we need to go ahead and paste some XML into here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy some XML and paste it in here. And I will leave this also in the description below. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a strings XML file, so that way you can reference it during build. And what it's going to have is it's going to have your app ID, and your app ID is located out in your Play Games service here. So if we actually go out to our configuration, there should be an ID right here that we can go ahead and grab. So let's go back and paste that in here, and that will give us our project ID. And then we need to go ahead and set up our scripts. So from here, we can go ahead and open up our Godot right here. We can go ahead and create a 2D scene, right click, attach a script, and let's just call it servicemanager.gd. And let's go ahead and first set up our plugin. So what I can do is we can say, hey, if engine dot has underscore singleton, and in our case, it's called the Godot Play Games Service. And how we know this is go up to our project, export, and we hover over here. You can see that it says Godot Play Games Services. It actually has an S at the end. So we'll go ahead and add that S. So if that exists, then we need to go ahead and create that plugin. So we're going to say var play underscore service, and we'll say play underscore service is equal to engine.get singleton quote, and we'll just go ahead and grab this name right here, and that will pull that in. Now we need to go ahead and initialize that plugin. So we need to tell our plugin to go ahead and connect to the server and do all the authentication and all of that happy jazz. So what we can do is we can come down here, we can say play service dot init, and then we have some parameters here. So the first one is if we want to show pop-up. So in my case, I do. So we'll say true. So we want email requests And in my case, I'll say true. We need to pass in whether or not we want to request their profile, in which case I'm going to say true. And then finally, we need to have our request token. And our request token is going to be a string. And this string is our authentication for our game server here. So let's go ahead and click on that. And you will see that there is an OAuth client ID. And this is a unique ID for you to be able to authenticate to your Play services. So we'll go ahead and put that in right here. And then we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now you can put these out as variables if you'd like. In my case, I don't really need to, so that's okay. So now that we have this set up, all we need to do is connect a few signals and we should be good to start logging in and doing things like that. So let's first connect our first signal. So let's say play_service.connect. And then we're going to go ahead and connect their underscore on underscore sign underscore in success. We're going to pass that to self, comma, and then we're going to create a function down here for this. So we'll just go ahead and grab this and duplicate it. It'll be a little easier if we just duplicate it. So we'll just do that. And then we'll say func on sign in success. And it passes back a user profile. So we'll just say user profile. And we'll go ahead and print our user profile. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and save. So now it's saved. And then we're going to do the same thing except for on error. So it's going to be a duplicate of this line here. So let's just copy and paste that. And we will say on sign in failed. Self on sign in failed. Go ahead and save that. And then I'm just going to grab this entire function here and we will go ahead and say func on sign in failed, and it passes back a error code. So we'll say error, and we'll say print quote error colon space plus error, just like that. Simple enough. And that's pretty much all we need to do to be able to sign in to our project. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my phone and I will be right back. All right, so now that I have my phone plugged in, let's go ahead and build out for our Android device. Now, in my case, I have Android debugging enabled on my phone. So since I have that enabled, you can see that there's a little Android guy icon here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. If you don't have access to this, you can go ahead and build out an APK and then just run it manually and install it manually, and that will work. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And it says, hey, you haven't selected a main scene. So go ahead and select one and we will select our main scene. And let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Okay, so we have an error. Now, I knew this error was going to happen, but I wanted you guys to see it because this is a common error I run into. So you can see here that it says, hey, SDK version of 19 cannot be smaller than 21 detected in library of Google Play Game Service, right? Well, what that means is that our minimum SDK version cannot be 19. It has to be 21, right? Because we can't use an older API version than what the project minimum API level is of all of our add-ons. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you have Firebase or something like that that has, a version 22, then you'd have to use 22 for your Godot project. So that's something to keep in mind. So go ahead and click OK. We can fix that by going up to our project and going to export and then scrolling down until we got to our minimum SDK. We could change that to 21 and hit close. And let's go ahead and try building that out again and see what happens. All right, you'll see the project has started up. Now, you'll notice that nothing's going on and nothing's happened. And the reason why is because we're not executing any code. We just successfully initialized everything, right? Nothing's crashed. Everything seems to be working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to develop in tandem with my Android game being running. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go ahead and add in a child node. We're going to add in a button. And I'm going to make it a little on the larger side so I have something to click on. And I'm going to call this log in. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to my node on button down. And we're going to actually rename this real quick. Log in. Whoops. And I'll go ahead and double click on button down and we will click connect. And you'll see that we have our little function here on log button down. Now to call our login function, we need to go ahead and say, okay, play service dot sign in, and that should be it. So let's go ahead and run this on our little Android device. And you'll see it has restarted on my end. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the login button. And you will see that it's called out to the Android login screen. Now, in my case, it didn't pop up with anything, right? But let's see if that is a break or if it's because I have cached my sign in from previously. So let's see, ADB log cat. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's take a look at it. So go ahead and hit Control A, Control C. We're going to open up our VS Code here and we will paste it, and let's look and see if we have any errors here. So we'll say Control F, Godot, and we're going to go up. And you'll see that we have invalid operand string and int operator plus. So that means we did get an error of some kind, and this needs to be transferred to a string, so str, so that way it is a string. Now, we must have gotten some kind of error here, so let's see what it did. So we'll go ahead and click on our Pixel 3. Let's run it, and then let's attempt to do it again. So let's click on our little button here. It attempted to do something, but then it crashed, and let's see what it did. So we'll hit Control A, Control C, and then Control A, Control V, and then we're going to go up. And you'll see that we have an error of 4. And actually, if we scroll up a little bit further, you'll notice that we have another section here. App is not correctly configured to use Google Play Games. Now, one of the cool things about this is that you can see here, it'll actually tell us what's going on. So your package name and certificate do not match. Your app ID is incorrect. Your fingerprint is incorrect, which in my case, I have a feeling that it's that. Or your app ID is incorrect. So let's take a look at our OAuth stuff and let's see if there's something going on. So if we go ahead and click on it and we look at our configuration here and we scroll down and we take a look at our credentials here. Let's go ahead and click on this little edit button here. Let's take a look at it. So our application ID is 1741122, 174112231. Yep, that's correct. Our fingerprint is 5A3E, and you notice that we have 5F29. And the reason why is because we used our debug keystore from the keystore we generated. But if we go to our editor, we go to our editor settings, you'll notice that our Android is using our keystore that is generated during my exporting to Godot tutorial. So it's not going to work because the keystore is not the same. So how we can handle that is we can go to project export and we can go ahead and sign it with our debug key. So if we come up here and we click on debug key, we click this and we choose our keystore. And then we need to go ahead and set our user, which our user is Android debug key, and our password is Android. And now if we run this and we go ahead and attempt doing it now, let's see if that worked. And if not, then we might just use our current signing key and just go and update our stuff here. And let's go ahead and click on login. And there we go. So it says, hey, Google hasn't verified this application. Now, this is because it's not out on the Google Play Store. So don't worry if you if this pops up for you. That's fine. Just go ahead and click continue. And it's going to say, hey, we want to access your Google account. So if you scroll down and you say, yep, that's fine, continue, you will see it pops up and says, hey there, FinePoint CGI. Awesome. That means we have everything set up. And that means that everything's going to be so much easier from this point forward. So now that everything's working, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and set up our achievement system. Now, this is actually really simple because the hardest thing was really setting everything up. Now it's just basically filling in the rest of the plugin. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pull back some achievements. So first, we need to go to our configuration here, and we'll go ahead and come down here to achievements. You'll see right here. So we'll go ahead and click on that and click create achievement. Let's go ahead and call this test achievement. And then for description, we'll just call it test. We don't need an icon, and we'll scroll down and make this as a revealed one. And we'll say it's 5 points, and list order, it'll be the first one. And we'll go ahead and save draft. And then we'll go back. So that's how we make an achievement. So how do we make an incremental achievement? What an incremental achievement is an achievement that requires a person to do something like 5,000 steps or 10,000 steps or you opened up 500 chests or something like that, right? Well, what you can do is you can come up here to our create achievement, go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to say INC for incremental. And we will say test. And then for description, we'll just say test. And we're going to go ahead and make this an incremental achievement. So let's click on the checkbox here and we will say 5. So we'll say they need to do 5 of whatever for this incremental achievement. And then we'll say it's 5 points. Now, if we go ahead and save this as a draft, now we have 2 achievements. So if we go back to our achievements panel, you'll see that we have 2 achievements. Now we can go ahead and review and publish this. If we click on this and it says, hey, we have actions. So let's see what our actions are that we missed. It looks like we need to provide an icon. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have some icons here and I'm just going to grab my icon for 512. We'll go ahead and save that. And then we're going to go ahead and go back and do the same thing for our incremental achievement. So let's go ahead and add an icon. I didn't think we needed to do that, so that's why I didn't cover it, but there we go. And then let's go back. Let's save and then go back to our achievements and then review and publish. And let's go ahead and publish these. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to have our achievements. So if we go back to our achievements, we have these few achievements here that's available to everyone to use. Actually, you don't need to do that for your publishing. You can see here I did a non-published one. It's available to testers. So you will need to publish it eventually, but since this isn't going to be accessible outside of our little test environment, we actually didn't need to publish these, and that's my fault. So let's go ahead and grab our ID here. And let's go ahead and copy that. And then let's go back to Godot. Let's go ahead and right-click, add in a child node, add in a button, and let's make it about yay big, give or take. And we're going to call this button unlock test achievement. And then we will go ahead and name it test achievement. And then let's go ahead and hook up our signal. So button down and link it to our node 2D. What we can do is we can go ahead and say play service dot unlock achievement and pass in our achievement ID, which is this ID right here. So now that we have that, we need to get our signal to be connected. So what we can do is we can go ahead and say play service.connect, and we'll just go ahead and duplicate this. So Control D, and then I'm going to say on achievement unlock. And then we'll just go ahead and grab this, copy it, and then paste it right there. We're going to come down here and we're going to say func on achievement unlocked, and it will pass back a string value. So we'll just go ahead and just say ID. And then we're going to go ahead and just print that ID. So that way it has our ID. And we do have one more thing where if we fail to unlock our achievement, so we'll say func underscore on underscore achievement unlocking underscore failed. And that'll take in as well an ID for the achievement ID. And we're going to say print ID, and we'll go ahead and grab this and control duplicate this and paste it into these guys. And that should go ahead and set up our achievement to being unlocked. Now, while we're at it, let's go ahead and control duplicate this, pull this down and say INC test achievement. And then let's go to our node. Let's right click disconnect and change this to INC achievement. And then let's go ahead and button down on increment achievement, button down. And we're going to write play service dot increment achievement. And we need to pass in our achievement ID. Now, this is actually pretty easy because if you look at our incremental test here, you'll see that we have our ID right here. So we'll just go ahead and pull that. So let's just grab this little ID here. We're going to paste it in, and then we need to tell it what its step is. So in my case, I'm going to make it 1, which means I'm going to have to hit the button 5 times before it will go ahead and give me the achievement. So now we need to do our callbacks, okay? And our callbacks for this one is on achievement incremented and on achievement incrementing failed. So we'll say func underscore on underscore on achievement underscore incremented. And we will say our achievement ID just like before. And we're going to go ahead and print that ID. And honestly, we should probably come up with some better words here. So we'll say achievement space, plus ID plus incremented. That way we can get some, a little bit better logs. Let's go ahead and copy this function. Let's just paste it down here. And I don't really like copying and pasting code, but it makes this a little easier. Incrementing underscore failed. And then we'll say something like, something like this. And we will go ahead and do this. And now we need to come up here. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this twice. We'll scroll down. We'll grab our incrementing achievement, paste it, and paste it. And that'll link that up. And then let's do the same thing for our incrementing. Paste it and paste it. Now, we do have some other options here. So we can actually go ahead and reveal achievements. So if we have any hidden achievements, so if we go back to our achievement here and we come to our non-published one and we scroll down and we turn it to hidden, then the user's not going to be able to see it. So we'll go ahead and save that as a draft, and we'll go ahead and copy this achievement, the non-published one. And we will go ahead and duplicate this, bring this over here and say reveal achievement. Reveal test achievement. And then we're going to come over here to our node. We're going to disconnect it and then connect it on reveal test achievement down. We'll go ahead and type in play service dot reveal achievement, and we will go ahead and paste in our little achievement. And this also comes with callbacks because everything in this plugin comes with a callback. We'll go ahead and say func underscore on underscore achievement underscore revealed. And we'll get back our ID and we'll go ahead and print achievement revealed, and we'll go ahead and give it its ID. And then we'll also do the same thing, func on achievement revealing failed, and we'll pass it an ID like last time. And we'll just go ahead and grab this little function here. Achievement revealing failed, and that will basically handle that. And I'm going to go ahead and format this a little bit. Okay, now let's go ahead and connect our callbacks. So we'll just duplicate these 2 more times, and we'll come down here. We'll grab our on achievement revealed and our on achievement revealed, and then we'll come down here. We'll go ahead and grab our failed, and we'll paste that in. And we have 2 more functions that we can do in here that is super useful when it comes to achievements. The first one is revealing our achievements. And the second one is loading achievement information. Now, revealing all of our achievements and showing them is awesome because it allows the user to look at all the achievements that the user has available to them. And then they can go ahead and see like, oh, you know, I have this many achievements left, or here's how I should target my next achievement, right? So we'll go ahead and duplicate this, and we'll just bring this down here, and we will disconnect this, and we will say show achievements. Let's go ahead and copy that and paste it, and I will put a space in there, and then go back to our node, button down, and let's go ahead and connect it and say play service dot show achievements. And this one doesn't have any callbacks, so that's cool. So we'll go ahead and duplicate our button 1 more time, and we'll just bring this over here, and we will say load achievement info. We'll go ahead and grab that, and I keep spelling achievement wrong. We'll go to our inspector, and we will paste it and space in between our achievement and info. There we go. Let's make sure that this doesn't have a space. There we go. And now let's go ahead and hook up our button. So disconnect here, button down, connect. And then we'll go ahead and say, all right, we need to go ahead and load our achievement information. So play service dot load. And we have an operator here of false or true. So we can either force our reload or not. And I don't think we need to. So we'll go ahead and say no. But now we can go ahead and create our callbacks for this. So we'll go ahead and hit enter and say func on underscore achievement underscore info loaded. And we'll go ahead and pass in our achievement. Now, this will actually bring back all of our achievements in a JSON form. So we're going to go ahead and print our achievements. And then we can go ahead and do our last achievement callback, which is func underscore on underscore achievement underscore info underscore load underscore failed. And we'll just pass it an ID, and we'll go ahead and print achievement load fail, and we will say ID. Okay, hopefully I didn't bore you guys to death with all this for the achievement section. If I did, my apologies. But let's come down here, hook these up, and then we can go ahead and take a look at it. And I did spell achievement wrong on achievement. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and paste this. There we go. We'll come down here. We'll go ahead and grab this one. We'll scroll back up. We'll paste it. And then we will go ahead and test our code. So let's go ahead and click on our little Android guy here. Now that we have everything hooked up. And let's see if any of our code actually works. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and show our achievements. Let's start show them. Oh no, and it doesn't seem like anything's working. Uh-oh. Actually, probably because I'm not logged in. So let's log in. There we are. So I'm logged in. Let's show achievements. And you will see that now we can see all of our achievements. And you can see how we have secret, keep playing to learn more. And then if I click reveal test achievement, and then I show achievements, and you can see that my test non-publish achievement is now showing on the screen. So that's cool. So let's scroll down and let's go ahead and unlock our test achievement. You'll see that we've now unlocked it. And we can go ahead and increment our test achievement. And if we go ahead and show our achievements, you'll see that our increment test achievement is now at 20%. We've unlocked our test achievement. And we can go ahead and hit increment 4 more times. And you can see that we now unlocked our test achievement. Awesome. So now if we go ahead and click load achievement information and we come back to our computer and we go ahead and do a ADB logcat to pull back our logs. We control A, control C, and we paste it in here and we kind of go up in our Godot here. We should be able to see right here is all of our, providing that it doesn't auto detect to Ruby. Let's change it to log. You'll see right here that it has picked up all of our achievements as one giant JSON object. So we can actually cast this to a object and use it inside of our game, which is awesome because it allows us to basically integrate our game with our achievements and allows us to have a lot of flexibility there. You'll also notice that if we come up here, you can see that we do have all sorts of stuff where we have achievement batch response and things like that to help us debug our project, which means our callbacks are actually starting to work. So you can see achievement, this has been incremented. It's been incremented. You can see that the, let's see. Actually, it might be a little easier to go ahead and stop this. Do this, -s, Godot, -s, Godot. And you'll see that we actually have all sorts of information here. So we've got my email with my token. We've got some sign-in data, some achievements been revealed, our ID of our achievement we unlocked. So all of our callbacks seem to be working pretty well. So that's great. All right, the next big thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and do our leaderboard system. So how can we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to go out to the Google console and add it in to our project. So let's go out to our Google console here. Let's go down to our leaderboards. Let's go ahead and create our leaderboard and let's have a name of test. Let's go ahead and say the format is going to be a number. You can make it a duration or a currency if you'd like. Number of decimals, I'm just going to say 0, but you can make as many decimals as you would like. And we can also add in custom units. So if you wanted to add in something like coin and coins, you'll see that it appends it to the end. And you'll need to make sure you add a space at the beginning, and that'll clear up that little issue right there. But I don't really need these, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them, and then I'm going to uncheck my custom units. Icon, you don't need an icon. If you don't put an icon, a standard leaderboard icon will be shown, which is basically like a king, a crown, basically, which I'm not going to go ahead and upload. Now, you also have sort order here, so you can choose to sort it by highest number or lowest number. So, you know, that's something that's super useful. Tamper protection. That's important. And you can either turn it on or turn it off, and it's up to you guys. But tamper protection will automatically pull out fraudulent scores from the leaderboard. By default, it's on, so you might as well just leave it on. And you have some limits here as well. So for instance, if somebody jumps into the game and they only get like 1 point, you don't necessarily want that on the leaderboard because that's just an extra bit of traffic that's going to be shoved to your project, and you might not want that. And same thing with highest allowed score. If you have a score for that specific level that can't go above this number, then you can set that as the highest allowed score, so that way you could tell that that's a fraudulent score. But in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and keep them as not checked. And then I'll go ahead and click Save as Draft. All right, so now we have our little ID right here. So that's perfect. Now, what we're going to do is we will go back to Godot and we'll go ahead and set up our little scoreboard section. So we'll come over here. We'll go ahead and grab our load achievement. We're going to duplicate that and bring this over, and then we're going to go ahead and duplicate it again and bring it down. We're going to change this to submit to leaderboard. And then we're going to name this one show leaderboard. All right. And show leaderboard, we're going to have to disconnect it and reconnect it. We'll go ahead and connect it. Same thing with submit to leaderboard. We'll disconnect it and reconnect it. And then we need to go ahead and get started with coding our little plugin here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and hit enter on show leaderboard, and this will show our leaderboard to the users. So we'll go ahead and type play service dot show leaderboard. And then we need to go ahead and paste in our leaderboard. So we'll go back to our Godot Play Console. We're going to copy this, tab back, and go ahead and paste it. All right. And now for us to submit to our leaderboard, we can go ahead and submit to it by just typing play underscore service dot submit leaderboard score. And we will go ahead and paste in our leaderboard and then whatever number we want for our score to be. So we could say something like 55. And that'll be the score that we submit. Simple enough. Now, these have some callbacks associated with them. At least the submitting leaderboard does. So let's go ahead and add those in. So we'll say func underscore on underscore leaderboard underscore score submitted. And what it's going to do is it's going to pass back a leaderboard ID. So we'll just say ID and we'll go ahead and print and we'll say that it was a success. So and we will say leaderboard submit success and we will pass our ID. And then same thing on failure. So we'll say func underscore on underscore leader board underscore score underscore submitting underscore failed. And that also takes an ID. And then I'm basically just going to take this, I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to say failed. There we go. And that's going to give us a pretty decent debugging. We can see if it succeeded or failed on that leaderboard submission. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. So we'll click on our little Android guy and let's see what happens. All right, so I think I forgot the name to change the, yep, I forgot to change the titles. I'm sitting here looking at this going, why do I have multiple ones? Okay, so let's change that. And this one would be submit to leaderboard and show leaderboard. Now, this doesn't really matter necessarily, so we can go ahead and test the functionality. So let's go ahead and submit to our leaderboard, and then let's see what happens if we show it. Oh, it's going to fail because we haven't logged in. So let's go ahead and log in. So you'll see that it comes up with, hey there, 5-point CGI. Let's go ahead and submit to a leaderboard, and then let's go ahead and show it. And you'll see I have submitted to the leaderboard. I am top rank because I'm very good at my own button clicking. And you'll see that I have 55 score, which means our submission was correct and it worked, which is awesome. Sweet. So we got this working. So next on our big agenda is events. And events are really cool because events allow you to keep track of users' engagements, right? So you can do stuff like, hey, they've gotten past this specific level, or they've failed this many times, or something like that. And the nice thing about it is you can pull that data back and have it for your own use. So it's really quite nice. You can also do stuff like use this to keep track of, like how much a user has made, how much money has a user made in the entire time they've played the game, right? So you can use that for those types of things. So to go ahead and create this, we can just go ahead and click on create event. So we'll click on that. And then for our name, we'll say test event. And our event type, we can either do a currency source or a currency sink. Currency source means you're producing currency. Currency sink means you're removing currency. So it's basically saying addition of thing or subtraction of thing. So in my case, I'll just say none because it doesn't need any of that. So you could do a format of number, duration, or currency. So in my case, I'll just do a number and we'll say number of decimals is 0. We can do a custom format much like we did with the leaderboard. We don't have to though. We can have an icon if we'd like, but we don't need to. And then for our initial state, we can either hide it or reveal it. And the nice thing about this is when you do this, you'll get back some JSON data. So for instance, you'll be able to execute out and load the events and have them. Whereas if they're hidden, it doesn't necessarily show up right away, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and save this as a draft. And then let's grab our ID right here. Let's go ahead and copy it, go back to Godot, and then let's go ahead and duplicate our buttons. So we will go ahead and just grab both of these, control duplicate, and I'm going to drag them over because there's only 2 interactions with events. So from this one, we will go ahead and say submit event. And for the button's name, we're going to say submit event. For our second leaderboard, we will go ahead and say load event. And we will go ahead and say load event. Awesome. So now we can go ahead and connect those buttons much like before. So disconnect. Oh, not on button up. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing with our load event button. So we'll right click, connect, and go ahead and connect it. So when we submit our event, we need to go ahead and call the submit event function. So we'll say play service dot submit event, and then we'll go ahead and pass in that. And then we can pass in a value, and that value is whatever we want it to be for the user to be able to interact with that event. So for instance, like 11, right? So we could say they got 11 coins, right? They picked up 11 coins and we wanted to notify the system that they've picked up 11 coins. That's a good way to go about doing it. So we'll go ahead and call that. And then this has a couple of callbacks. So we'll say func underscore on underscore event underscore submitted. And that passes in an ID. So we can go ahead and say print event submitted successfully. And we'll go ahead and pass in our ID. And then we'll say func on event underscore submitted underscore failed. And we will pass in our ID just like last time. And then we'll go ahead and print event submitted failed, and we'll pass in our ID. Now, something that I didn't do beforehand, and I should have, is I forgot to set these up as our connection here. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. I don't know, probably 4 times total, I would say, because I believe we have 4 events that we still have to do. So let's come down here and say on event submitted failed. We'll come up here. And I know this is pretty dry, and I'm sorry, guys, but this is unfortunately how this goes. I'm going to leave all of this code for you guys. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but I am going to leave all this code for you guys. So, what I always suggest is instead of coding it yourself, just go ahead and pull my code and use it for your guys' stuff, because honestly, this is a lot of work. So we'll grab our last event, leaderboard score submitted, and that will be our last one. Awesome. So now if I go ahead and I run this, because I believe that should be, oh, I almost forgot. We have our load events button. So on our load event, we can do it one of two ways. We can either call play service dot load events. And what that's going to do is that's going to load all of the events. Okay, so that's going to load everything. And since that will load everything, it's just going to pull back all of your events as one big object. Now, if we want, we can actually just load a single event or maybe a couple events. So you could actually say play service dot load events by ID, and then we can pass in an array of strings. So we could just say something like load this event specifically, like this. And then we could come up with a second event and just say load that event, right? And that's how we would do multiple events. This does multiple specific events, and I'm going to comment this out because I don't need it, but I wanted to show you guys that's how you would do a multiple specific event load. And this has a few callbacks, okay, as with everything in this plugin. So the first one is underscore on underscore events underscore loaded. And it actually comes back with an array of objects. So we'll go ahead and open that up, and I misspelled funk because I tend to do that. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna print it. And that will allow us to pull back that data. Now, this data is going to come back as JSON, so we're going to need to parse that data somehow. So what we can do is we can say var events is equal to parse JSON and just pass in our array list that we get back. And then from there, we can access it just like everything else. We can just say, you know, for event in events, then we can go ahead and do the rest of our code. So I'll just say print event. I mean, it shouldn't come up with more than one, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that so you guys can see what this does. And I think that will work. The next callback that we have is what happens if we have no events. So that is on underscore events empty. And we can just say print, there are no events. And the last one that we have is func on events underscore loading underscore failed. And we'll just say print failed to load events. There we go. So now we got to hook up all of our signals, much like always. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this 3 more times. We'll scroll down to the bottom, and this script is getting way too long for my liking, but that's okay. So we'll do that, and then we'll scroll back down. We'll go ahead and grab our on events empty, and we'll pass that one. Actually, I spelled submitted wrong. Whoops. Let me see. Did I spell it wrong in the... I did. There we go. And we need to pull our on events loaded as well. So let's pull that. And let's try running this on our phone and let's see how it goes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. So you'll see it says pops up, hey there, FinePoint CGI. And I think I may have missed. I did. Goodness, I keep making this. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and submit event. And then I'm going to go ahead and load event. And the only way to know if this worked is for us to be able to go in here, and you will see if I run adb logcat that we did get back our ID with our proper data right here. Awesome. So that means that our event was submitted successfully. You can see right here that it says, hey, we submitted it successfully, and we got back our data when we did our event call. And you'll see that it looped through once and pulled that specific data because it would have printed out multiple events if we had multiple events. Awesome. From here, we have only a few more left, thankfully. I believe we have player statistics, player information, and then saving and loading data. So it should be a pretty quick little rest of this. So let's start diving into it. So to get our player data, it's actually pretty simple. What we can do is we can go ahead and come over here and grab these two, duplicate them, pull them over, and let's rename this Get Player Data. Then this one we could say Get Player Stats. There we go. We'll go ahead and click on Get Player Data. We'll go ahead and copy it, go to our inspector, paste it, and then just hit space and space. We're starting to run out of space in this little room here, or this little scene here, so we might have to start clearing stuff out. So we'll go ahead and paste this, and we will go ahead and get our player stats. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and hook up those buttons. So we'll go ahead and grab our player data. We will disconnect it and then connect it and then connect it. Same thing with Get Player Stats. Disconnect it, connect it, go ahead and connect it. All right, now to get player stats, all we need to do is we need to say play service dot load player stats. Now, this does take in a Boolean, and the Boolean is whether or not it's going to force refresh, so if it's going to clear any of the local data. One of the things that I have noticed is it can crash your app if you force reload, if you have it previously loaded. So I'm going to say false for this. And this has some callbacks here, so we'll go ahead and add those in. So func on underscore player underscore stats underscore loaded. And we'll go ahead and take in their stats. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in their stats data, and it's going to be a dictionary, right? So we're going to say var player is equal to parse JSON stats. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here, and I'm going to show you guys kind of what comes back here. So we will go ahead and add in a child node. We'll add in a rich text label here. We'll pull this down. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in some data here. So we'll just say player stats, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my script here. And we'll go ahead and hit $player stats.text is equal to, and from here we can go ahead and pull back our objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say quote. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a multiple placeholder string. So what I'll do instead is I'm going to go ahead and say var format underscore format string, and we're going to say something like average message length, and then we'll go ahead and say %s/n, and then we're going to also say days since last played, and we'll also say %, actually let me put my thing here, and then %s/n, and then we will go ahead and do our number of purchases. And we will go ahead and do %(s)/n. And then we're going to go ahead and do number of sessions %(s)/n. And then we also have two more properties that we can pull, which is our session percentile and our spend percentile. And this is stats that's just how much does a person spend or like use your income, right? So like if they buy something from you, you can get back that data. Now, generally you don't want to show that to the user, but I'm going to print that data for you guys here. And that's going to just give us that data back. But what we can do is we can come in here and we can go ahead and format that string. So we'll go ahead and say output string is equal to format string %, and then we'll go ahead and add in two brackets so we can kind of start filling this in now. So we can actually just say something like player.avg_session_length, comma, player.days_last_played, comma, player.purchases, player.sessions. And that should cover all of our little objects here. And then we can go ahead and set our text to the output string. And that should about do it. Actually, I think I might have hooked up my buttons wrong. Let me see. I'm sure you guys are yelling at me right now. Get player data, get player stats. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like I hooked up the wrong button. This one should be coming down here. And then we'll get to the player data one. The player data is all the player information. And that one is going to be an actual kind of difficult one for us to get through because we have to pull their name, display name, things like that. But I also want to show you guys how to pull their actual banner image and their actual images so we can use it to personalize their own, like have their own icon and things like that. So, and then we're going to need to go up to our top and throw in our callbacks, and we're actually missing a callback. So let me go ahead and add that real quick. And that's just when stuff fails to load. So func on underscore player underscore stats underscore loading underscore failed. And that'll just say print player stats failed to load. Now, something I wish that we could get back is an actual, reasoning. A lot of times they have an enumerator that says here's what's wrong, or enum that says here's what's wrong. Unfortunately, we don't get that back here. So that's kind of an unfortunate problem. But our callbacks are on player stats loaded and on player stats loading failed. So let's go ahead and scroll up to the top. Let's go ahead and duplicate two of these. And then let's go ahead and copy our on player stats loaded. So that way our event can get fired. So there we go. And then we'll do the same thing on player stats loading failed. Let's scroll up to the top. And then let's drop both of those in. There we are. And something that I made a mistake on is here. This should be set to true, not to false. So we will set it to true. And we will go ahead and test this on our Android device. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this on our Google Pixel here. And let's see if it all works out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in. And then I'm going to go ahead and get our player stats. And you will see that we did get our data back, although our /newlines didn't work, unfortunately, but we did get our data back, and that's basically what we wanted. So I think the reason why is because it's the opposite direction. I believe it's this way. I always get forward slashes and backward slashes mixed up. So let's try that real quick. And we can go ahead and fix this. And if you want, you can just skip ahead. There we go. And we'll test this on our next run through of this. So our next big thing that we need to do is we need to load our player data. So to do that, we'll say get player data button, and we'll say play service dot load player info. And that's going to have two callbacks. It's going to have bunk underscore on underscore player underscore info underscore loaded. And it's going to pass in that info object, right? It's going to be just a bunch of information. And we'll go ahead and pass that for now. And then we're going to say func underscore on underscore player underscore info loading underscore failed. And it passes back nothing. So we'll just go ahead and print player info load failed, and that'll just give us some information here. And you'll see that we get back an info object with our on player info loaded. And what we're going to do is we'll fill this out, and then we'll create a small little box here where we can fill out some of the data, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this twice, and I'm going to get those callbacks in. So on player info loaded. So that way we can get these called out immediately. And then we'll scroll back down and we'll pull our on player info load failed. And let's paste that in. There we go. There we go. All right. So this is going to be kind of difficult. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my player stats. I'm going to duplicate this and bring it over here. Let's make it nice and large. And what we're going to do is we're going to have their display name, their title, their player ID, and then we're going to try to see if we can pull back a little bit more information from them and see if we can get some cool data from this. So we'll say player data, and we will go ahead and click on our script. And then basically we're just going to pull back that info. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this, Control C, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it on player info loaded. And that's just going to give me a little bit of my stuff already filled out for me. And I'll just grab this info, and that just kind of clears this up. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and just say on our format string, we can go ahead and say display name. And then we can pass in our %S, much like we did earlier, with our /n. And then we can go ahead and do our name %S. And then we can do /n. And then we can go ahead and do our title %S/n. And we can pull back our player ID. And give ourselves a %S. There we go. And now we can pull back some additional data, okay? So we can pull back our icon image URL, our banner image URL, our portrait image URL, and things like that. We can also pull back our level information and their current level and where they are towards their next level, okay? So what we can do, oh, whoops. This should be player, and this should be info. That's my fault. Okay. So what we can do is let's first put in some of our player information here. So for player display name, we'll go ahead and say player display name. For their actual name, we'll go ahead and pull back name. For their title, we'll pull back their title. And for their ID, we'll pull back their player underscore ID. Now I'm going to run this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up so we can pull back their player image, and we'll load that data and display it on the screen as well. So let's run this on our Android device, and let's see if it pulls back the data like we expect. And then we can take a look at it and see what we can do. So let's go ahead and click login. Let's click Get Player Data. And it doesn't seem to run. So let's see if we have an error. And this is why I wanted to check it out. So I'm going to bring up my command prompt and run ADB logcat. Okay, Control A, Control C. And this is why I wanted to run this, was because I wanted to make sure that it at least worked, and it looks like it's not. So let's see what's going on. No, it definitely worked. It just didn't display it on the screen, and that's probably because I didn't set up my $ player data dot text is equal to my output string, which is fine. And you'll see that we get back our data. We get a high-res user URL here. And if we go ahead and grab this, let me see what kind of data comes back from this. So if we open up our web browser here and we go ahead and paste it, you'll see there's my image right there. That's great. What else comes back from this? Let's see. Icon image right here, which I'm assuming is just a lower quality version of it. And then you'll see that we also get back, it's so hard because it's not formatted very well. So let me just do this. Go ahead and copy this and I'll just paste it in here, and then we'll just kind of throw an enter here or there to kind of help format this a little bit. So you'll see the data that kind of comes back here. So what we have is we have a icon image, a display name, an image URL. I think that's really about it. And then we also have our current level, our max XP, our min XP, our current XP, and things like that. And we could pull back our user image here and actually display it on the screen. So let's go ahead and display our user's image first, and we can figure out what we want to do after that. So let's go ahead and put in a texture rect right here. We'll go ahead and throw this in. We're going to make it about, I don't know, about yay big, give or take. And let's see, where's my player data in here? So we'll go ahead and put this right here. And we'll just make it, I don't know, about that big, give or take. And then let's go ahead and save that, go back to our script. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an HTTP request. And I know that this is a little bit beyond this little project, but I figured that it would be a lot of fun. It would be interesting. So let's go ahead and say var HTTP underscore request is equal to HTTP request dot new. And that's going to go ahead and give us a new HTTP request. And then we'll go ahead and add a child of an HTTP request. And then we'll go ahead and connect our HTTP requests signal, because the HTTP request has a signal that it'll fire off once it gets back its data. So let's go ahead and connect that. So HTTP underscore request dot connect. And we'll go ahead and connect our request complete. And we'll go ahead and pass that to us. And then we'll go ahead and pass that to our own function. So we'll just say on request complete. And I need to wrap that in quotes. There we go. And then what we can do is we can do a little bit of error checking here. So let's go ahead and make sure that we don't have any errors. So var error is equal to HTTP request dot request. And then we need to pass in a URL of where we want to go and get our data. So we know that if we look at our little display here, we know that we have our icon image URL and our high-res image URL right here. So we could actually pull this back and say player.high-res image URL, and that's going to pull back our player's image URL and then make a request out for that image. And then when it's done, it's going to call our callback right here. So we need to make that callback. So let's go ahead and do that. Func underscore on underscore request underscore complete. All right. And that's going to pass in a bunch of stuff. Okay. We're going to get a result. We're going to get a response code. We're going to get some headers. And we're going to get a body, which is awesome, right? Now what we can do is we can say, hey, var image is equal to a image dot new, right? Because we got to process this data. And we can go ahead and check for a var error, and we'll go ahead and process that image. So we'll say load PNG from buffer, body, because that's what it's going to get back. And then we'll go ahead and say, hey, if error does not equal OK, then let's go ahead and print out an error. And we need to make it capital OK, because OK does not actually exist unless it's the HTTP object. And now what we can do is we can say var texture is equal to image texture.new, because we need to make it into an image texture. So basically we have an image, right? And then we have an image texture. They're two totally different things. An image is a image, and an image texture is a texture that's going to show up in space, if that makes sense. So you need to do additional processing to make it so that it maps to UVs correctly. And we'll go ahead and say texture dot create from image, and we'll pass in our image that we pulled from the internet. And then we need to go ahead and display it, so we can go $, and I believe we called it texture rect dot texture is equal to our new texture. There we go. And if everything's set up correctly, it should pull back our player image. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of checking here. So if we have our error, just like we did before, does not equal OK, then we know that our request was wrong. So we'll go ahead and print request failed. All right, let's go ahead and run this. And like I said, I know this is beyond what we're doing, but I figured this would be really cool and something interesting and something you guys might want to do. So if we go ahead and we click login and we get our player data, you will see that I load in my picture, I load in my display name, my actual name, my title, which apparently is Top Gun, and then my player ID, which is awesome. And it's totally what we would need, right? If you were building a stats screen or something like that, it'd be nice to be able to pull back their actual Google ID instead of pulling back a fake ID or something like that. You can actually have their image in your game, which is really cool, and users like that kind of thing. And you can do the same thing with some of the other data that comes back. Like I said, there's level info, current, XP total, and things like that you could pull back. And you'll also notice that the image was too large, so we could actually go ahead and just say scale, and that should fix that. So the last two things we need to look at is saved games. So you could do stuff like saving snapshots and loading snapshots and showing your saved snapshot screen. Okay, so this is all about like saved games and how saved games would work inside of the Google Play system. Now, this is going to require a lot of extra work on our part to get it to work. So let's go ahead and jump over to our Godot Play console here. And let's go ahead and go back to our events. And then we're going to go ahead and go to our configuration. So you'll see right here, we have saved games not enabled. So we'll go ahead and click on Edit Properties. And then we will scroll down and you'll see that we have saved games here. We have that set to off. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And then let's scroll down. And then let's go ahead and hit Save Changes. And that's going to go ahead and submit those changes. And one of the things we have to do is we have to scroll down to the bottom and turn our API on for the Google Drive API. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And you'll see that it's now enabled. Awesome. So from here, we need to go ahead and set up our saved games. And this is completely different than you might expect when you are building out your game. So let's go back to our Godot project here. And let's go to our scripts here. And let's go ahead and change how we initialize our scripts. So we'll scroll all the way to the top. And we will go ahead and find where we initialize our project here. If you remember from the beginning of the tutorial, we need to go ahead and add in an additional parameter here on our init. Between this true and this true, if you guys remember, the first true is whether or not we should show pop-ups. The second one is if we should request their email. And the next one is if we should request their profile information. And then the last one is our token, right? Our request token. Well, what we also need to do is we also need to add in a parameter here for the name of their saved game. So let's just go ahead and say something like test, right? And this needs to be unique between everybody. So make sure that you just, throw a GUID in there or throw in a random number or something like that. So that's unique for every user. So that way they have a unique identifier for their saved games. Now that we have that, we can come down here and go ahead and set up our buttons and set up our parts for this. And in our case, we're going to need 3 separate buttons for this. So let's go ahead and click on our Node 2D and let's come over here and let's just grab a couple of our buttons here. Let's Control duplicate them, pull them down, and then go ahead and drag show achievements up. Let's rename this one as save game. Let's rename this one as get snapshot. And let's go ahead and show snapshot. Because they're technically called snapshots. They're not called saved games. So I'm just going to go ahead and change that to save snapshot. Let's go ahead and change our button to save snapshot. Let's go ahead and change this one to get snapshot. And then let's go ahead and grab this one and use show snapshot. All right, so let's go ahead and hook these up. So go to node, disconnect, connect, connect, and then do the same thing with our next one. Disconnect, connect, connect, and then the last one. Disconnect, connect, and then connect. All right, so first we need to create some save data, and it needs to be in JSON form. So let's go ahead and create a small dictionary of data. So let's just say var data is equal to, and we'll just go ahead and do something simple like name is going to be FP, and then we'll go ahead and pass in something like health is going to be something like 10, let's say. And let's go ahead and save that data. So we'll go ahead and say play service dot save snapshot. And then we need to give it a name of their snapshot. So we'll just go ahead and say test. And this snapshot is something that needs to be unique. Okay, so every time you do this, you need to make sure that it's a unique snapshot. So a lot of times people will name it something special, like, their name and then a random number or something like that. Because if you don't, it's going to overwrite the previous snapshot with the same name. So just make sure you keep that in mind. And then we're going to go ahead and to JSON and put in our data. And then we need to go ahead and give it a small description, which in our case, we can just say this is a test. But if it was like a level, right, you could say, oh, they came to level, level 5, and then, the description of you completed level 5, right? Something like that would work. So now that we have that, what we can do is we can get our callbacks here. So we can say func underscore on underscore game underscore saved underscore success. And we'll just say print successfully saved game. And then let's go ahead and say func on underscore game underscore saved underscore fail. And we will go ahead and print fail to save game. All right. So now that we have this, we need to go ahead and connect all of our callbacks. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll drag this up. Failed. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and come back down here. And then we need to be able to get our snapshot. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say play service dot load snapshot. And we need to give it a snapshot name. So it's whatever this snapshot name was. In our case, it's going to be test. So let's go ahead and do that. And then it's going to have its own callbacks as well. So we'll say func underscore. And we will go ahead and just grab this one because it's going to save me a little bit of typing. So we'll say on save game load success. And that's going to pass in the data that we loaded. So we'll type in data and we'll go ahead and say var saved data is equal to parse JSON data. And then we can go ahead and use that data like we normally would. So we can just go ahead and print that data. And then we can just verify it. Or if we really wanted to, I could go ahead and create a rich text label, and then we can just drag this over here. So that way we can at least see something on the screen when we load our data in. I think it's just rich text label. So we'll say save data. We'll come in here and we'll say $ saved data dot text is equal to, and we'll pull this data up here so that way we can have it. There we go. And we'll go ahead and pull this, get rid of it, so that way we can start over. Same thing here. No sense in redoing code if we could just avoid that. So we'll go ahead and do this, and we will say, I believe we just had 2 parameters, so we'll say name %s/n, and I believe the last one was health, colon, %s. Awesome. And we'll go ahead and do capital N, capital H, and we'll pass in data dot name, comma, data dot health. Awesome. All right. So now that we have that, and I have a misplaced N somewhere, let's see. Oh, it's just mad at me because of this. So we'll go ahead and grab our output string, and that should do it. Sweet. All right. So now that we have that, we need to get our on game load. So func underscore on underscore game underscore load underscore fail. And we're going to go ahead and just say print load game failed. Simple enough. All right. So we need to connect our signals just like last time. So let's come up here, duplicate, and go back down to our section where we're loading our game. And this class is getting a little bit on the large size, so I'm sorry about that, but that's the nature of this. And on load game success, you can see we have one heck of a connect statement. Look at that. That's craziness. And the last one that we need to hook up is our show snapshot screen. So if we come to our on snapshot screen button down and we go ahead and set that up. So we can go ahead and say play service dot show saved games. And the first one is the title of our screen. So what pops up when the user sees it. So we can just say custom title, let's say. And then comma. And the first one is allow the add button. So it allows the user to add a snapshot if you'd like. So we'll say true because I want to show you guys that button. The next one is allowing them to delete it. So we'll go ahead and allow them to delete their own snapshots. Why not? And the last one is how many max snapshots do you want to allow the user to have? So something like, 7 or 5 or 8 would be good, right? All right. And the last thing that we need to do before we can show this off, and we don't necessarily need to do this, but the last thing we need to do is we need to create a callback in case the user clicks on that new button. Remember, we set this to true, which means that the user can click it and it will actually snapshot their game, right? Their game data for them. And we need to have that callback, okay? So if the user clicks it, the callback is called on underscore create underscore new underscore snapshot. And we'll go ahead and pass in the name of their snapshot. So we'll just say name. Now you could make this whatever you want, by the way, same thing with all of these. But the reason why I'm following with this naming convention is because this is the naming convention inside the actual Java code. And I'd rather just stick with that naming scheme for this. So we'll go ahead and grab our data, which we actually have, if I remember correctly, right. Where did we place that? Right here. So let's go ahead and grab this data. And our snapshot save. So we can just kind of grab this data right here. We'll scroll up and we'll say create new snapshot. We'll pull this, and instead of test, we'll go ahead and put name in there because that's what it takes in. And then we need to go ahead and create our signal connection. So duplicate this, paste and paste. Awesome. So now that we have all of that, let's go ahead and do our hopefully final test. So let's run this and see if it worked. All right, so first, we're going to log in, and we have a crash. So that's a good sign. All right, let's take a look, and let's see why it's crashing. All right, let's go up. Requested null. Let's see. Initialize sign-in controller has not been initialized. So it looks like our initialize failed. So let's take a look at it. Let's see what we're doing wrong here. It's always good when you start off with something that blows up. Let's see. That looks correct to me. Oh, I didn't call the right one. That's my fault. We need to say init with saved games. And now let's go ahead and try firing this off. That's my fault. Let's see if this works. So let's go ahead and click login. And you will see that we logged in. Let's go ahead and try to save a snapshot and then get that snapshot. And you'll notice that we can actually see our snapshot. So if we click show snapshot, you'll see this is a test. That's our snapshot that we pulled in, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Is that what we called it? Let me see. This might be an older snapshot. Custom title. So you can see up here we have our custom title. And we set our snapshot name to test. Yep, so that's correct. Sweet. So you can see that we have that. And if we hit plus, and then we show our snapshots, there should be a new one sitting there right there. This is a test. This is a test. And we have our new one. Awesome. So if we go back to our project and we go ahead and, reveal our achievements, load our achievement information, show our leaderboards, you can see that we have all of that working. We can get our player data. We can get our player stats, which is on our button because I put it in the wrong spot. And we can show our snapshots. So we have everything working, it looks like. Awesome. We can show our achievements, and we have a few achievements. Cool. So we have everything working. Now, I don't suggest that you guys actually do all of this work. I suggest that you guys pull a lot of this code from my GitHub. I have a link in the description below to where all of this code is, and then just basically grab it and then modify it to what you guys need, because to be honest, this is a lot of work for you guys to do. But it's good for you guys to understand exactly how this all works, because it's important to understand how it all works so you can set it all up. But anyway, that is all I have for you guys today. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hey, if you dislike this video, go ahead and hit that dislike button, because I am here to make content for you guys. Now, this video was a viewer suggestion, as with all of my videos. So if you have any suggestions, please throw them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to add them to my Trello board. Link is in the description for that. And yeah, if you have any questions or any comments, throw them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to chat with you about it. Or you can jump on the Discord and chat with me directly, and I'm always willing to help you guys out. But that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thanks.